What is going on, everyone? If you're here, then you want to learn about the child tax credit. And that is super awesome because the child tax credit can save you a ton of money on your taxes when tax time comes due. This tax credit is extremely important, and today in this video I'm going to give you the who, what, when, where, why, and everything that you need to possibly know about the child tax credit. And the first thing that I want to talk about, just so we're all on the same page, is what a tax credit actually is. So a tax credit is very powerful. It actually reduces your tax bill dollar for dollar. So if you have $1,000 tax credit, then it's going to reduce your tax bill by $1,000. So tax credits are extremely awesome, and you should take advantage of as many tax credits as you possibly can. And if you meet the requirements for the child tax credit, then you should definitely take this tax credit. Let's first talk about who the child tax credit is for. So, sounds pretty obvious, right? But there are a few requirements for the child tax credit. Now, let me just read off my list really quickly. So, people with qualifying children, right? But you have to have a qualifying child. So, the qualifying child is going to be under 17 years old by the end of the tax year. So, by the end of, say December 31st, that child needs to be 16 years old and not 17 for you to qualify for the child tax credit. Another requirement is, that child can be your child, it can be a stepchild, it can be a foster child, and it can be a adopted child, but it legally has to be your child. Another requirement is that child has to receive more than half of their support from you. So you basically have to be the primary supporter of that child. At the same time, that child needs to have lived with you more than half of the year. So the child actually needs to reside with you for more than half the year. Now, there are a few exemptions to that, but for most people, your child probably lives with you if they're being supported by you. The other requirements are that they need to be like a U.S. citizen or something of that sort, and that they need to be actually put as a dependent on your tax return. Pretty simple requirements to meet. Most people with their own children or something similar to that are going to meet these requirements. And the IRS does have a tool on their website, basically a little questionnaire that you go through to actually confirm that your child is a qualified child, for this tax credit. So it's a pretty good resource if for some reason you're unsure if your child does qualify. So now that you know who it's for, let's talk about what this child tax credit is. So it is actually a non-refundable tax credit, right? So the child tax credit is non-refundable. But you have what's called the additional child tax credit, which is, basically the same thing, built in, has the same requirements. And that additional child tax credit is refundable up to a certain amount of the original child tax credit. And I'll discuss those amounts later on because those are probably the most important things, right? So I'll save them, best for last. So now we know the who and the what. Let's go to the where you're going to claim this child tax credit. So I'm going to go ahead and put the form on the page really quickly. So it is Form 1040, Schedule 8812. So you can see on Form 8812 the requirements for claiming this refundable additional child tax credit. Yada yada yada. It has all the information on there. But really, if you're using a tax filing software, then all of this stuff is going to be built in it for you. And that is what I would recommend pretty much everyone do. Taxes are extremely complicated. Tax deductions are complicated. Tax credits are complicated. So why just save yourself a bunch of time and headache, and you should probably use an online software to file your taxes. But that would be the paper form that you would use. Tax filing software will pretty much do all of that for you. So now you know where you need to file your taxes. Let's talk about why this tax deduction exists. And my answer to that is very simple. Children are expensive, right? So yes, children are very expensive. That's part of the reason why this tax credit exists. But also, there is another deeper reason behind it. And that is that the IRS and the government in general incentivizes certain things. And having children, growing the population of the United States is one of the things that it incentivizes. And so this tax credit is kind of offered as an incentive for people to have children. Generally you pay less taxes if you have, children. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why this tax credit actually exists among many other tax credits that are similar, that incentivizes us to pretty much do something because it can save us money. And before I get to how much it's worth, let me just stop really quick and ask if you would like the video on YouTube, because I would really appreciate that if you are liking this video. And consider subscribing to the channel, because I'm putting out new information on personal finance, taxes, saving, investing, everything like that, every Tuesday and Friday at 3 p.m. And I know there's something that I can definitely help you out with, because I want to learn and I want to teach many more things to you, and I really appreciate your support. Now let's get back into how much this tax credit is worth. So this is the best news of all. The child tax credit is worth $2,000 per qualifying child, and there is no limit on the amount of children that qualify for this. The refundable portion of the child tax credit is worth up to $1,400, and again, that is per child. So this tax credit is very, very significant. You know, having one child and a $2,000 tax credit eliminates $2,000 worth of taxes you pay right off the bat. So it is a very powerful credit, and if you have qualifying children, you should definitely be taking advantage of this tax credit. It'll save you a ton of money. Which brings us to things that you need to keep in mind. Like most things with taxes, there are income phase outs. So for the child tax credit, let me put up one more chart really quick. You can see the phase outs for this tax credit. If you are single and you are claiming children, then your tax credit begins to phase out at $200,000, and it eliminates completely at $240,000. And the phase out begins at $400,000 for married filing jointly, and $440,000 is where it is eliminated completely. So those are some pretty high incomes on where it gets phased out. So a very high majority of Americans with qualifying children will qualify for this tax credit. So it is an amazing tax credit, a really good opportunity for a lot of people to save a ton of money on their taxes. But another thing you need to keep in mind is, what if you have someone who is a dependent? Maybe your child just turned 17, or maybe they're in college, but they still receive all of their support from you. For situations like that and circumstances like that, it's not going to qualify for this child tax credit. There's actually another credit called the Other Dependents Credit, which most likely those scenarios will qualify under, not for the child tax credit. So pretty much if it doesn't meet the requirements we talked about earlier in the video, then usually you're not going to qualify for the child tax credit. So let me begin to end with an example. Let's say you have a married couple filing jointly, and together they bring in $100,000 and they have 2 children. So they bring in $100,000. They're not above the income phase out, so they qualify for the full tax credit. And let's say that their 2 children qualify for this tax credit. So that means that they get a $4,000 tax credit. Now, $100,000 is their taxable income, for this hypothetical purpose. Let's say they end up paying, 10% of their income, like their effective tax rate, like their actual tax they pay is $10,000. Well, since they have those 2 children that qualify for this tax credit, they actually eliminate $4,000 of that tax bill. So instead of paying $10,000 in taxes, they actually only pay $6,000 in taxes thanks to the child tax credit. And if you're here learning about the child tax credit and you're learning about things that have to do with personal finance, saving money on your taxes, and investing and anything like that, then I can bet that this video that I made can definitely help you out even more. The video I made that I want you to check out is about financial independence. And if you don't know what financial independence is, basically it's about acquiring enough wealth to where you are the most financially secure that you can ever be, to where theoretically you wouldn't even have to work for an income in order to survive. You could live off of your assets. So financial independence is the ultimate financial security. And later down in life, it's also known as this thing called retirement. So everyone should want to achieve financial independence at one point. And I put together a really good resource, a full video. It's a little bit longer, but it's full of good information on how to achieve financial independence as quickly as possible. And I actually give you an outline on how to do it in 10 years. So if you have any kind of interest in building your wealth, investing, saving money, reducing your taxes, or anything like that, then I'd highly recommend that you check out that video. I'm going to put a link to it in the description below, and I'm going to put it in a comment below as well. and you should actually see it pop up right next to me very shortly. And please remember, if you liked this video, give me a like, give me a thumbs up on this video. I'd really appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel because I'm putting out new information on personal finance, saving money, taxes, investing, and things like that every single Tuesday and Friday at 3 p.m. So I'd really appreciate if you could help me out and do that. I think there's a lot that I can do to help you out. And thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.